Welcome to the Video Insiders Podcast. I'm Carlos Pacheco.
And I'm Tom Martin.
And we are two socially distancing channel managers in our homes, managing many channels, many YouTube networks, and still generating views. Money might not be the same thing these days.
Yeah, we are literally the Video Insiders.
How have you been, Tom?
Yeah, I'm surprisingly chipper. I'm trying my best to, keep calm and carry on the British way. So, just trying to adjust to the new normal. It seems to change every week. But I think now we've got a bit more of a pattern. My wife is now able to work from home. She's recovered from any illnesses that she had, whether they were corona related or not, we still don't know, but it doesn't really matter. We've got like a shift pattern going on. We just had our first quote unquote weekend, which was strange. And we're lucky to have had some good weather, which hopefully will continue this week. But
you're taking my job.
I know, yeah, British weather updates. So yeah, it's generally new, trying to adjust to the new normal and then get on with business as usual.
Yeah.
And yourself?
Sort of the same, going on week 4 of self-isolating, social distancing, physical distancing, whatever you want to call it, working from home and taking care of the dogs and all that sort of stuff. We sort of, got into the beat of it. And it's just interesting when you say news is changing. For me, it's like every day is a different, different situation. Everything feels like a new world. Everybody's online streaming all of a sudden. So yeah, that's essentially where things are. And so, thankfully enough, work is not disappearing for me. TV networks are seeing the opportunity, even though they're not making as much money. They're like, okay, well, we need to batten down the hatches and build our audiences. So that's where I think the strategy is for anybody in the content space. It's sort of like understanding that, hey, all of a sudden we got an influx of people online looking to be, entertained for information and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you're not going to make as much money. You can, build an audience so that when the money does come back, it'll hopefully come back roaring. So it's really interesting to see how the landscape's sort of adjusting to this new world order, I guess.
Yeah, and speaking of influx of viewership, we're really seeing that across the kids niche, which makes sense with all of the kids
yes.
At home. And we're going to be speaking more about the kids vertical. Would you call it a vertical? Yeah, the kids vertical on YouTube and beyond with our guest today. But before that, we must say a huge thank you to today's sponsor.
Thank you, TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy is the ultimate tool for creators to streamline their daily workflow on YouTube, allowing for more time to make great content. This is the time to take advantage of TubeBuddy to grow your channel as fast as possible while audiences are wrapped for content. For brands to help reduce busy work and focus on what matters, growing your business on YouTube, for agencies to help manage multiple clients, channels, and for networks to give partners the tools for success and an attractive incentive for recruitment. Do we have a offer for our lovely audience?
Indeed, we do. You can get a world exclusive multi-channel license discount by visiting videoinsiders.fm/TubeBuddy. Thank you, TubeBuddy.
Thank you, TubeBuddy. All right. We are welcoming Brenda Bisner to the Video Insiders podcast, who you met. Remind me again?
Yeah, so I originally spoke to Brenda. I kind of like cold emailed Brenda as part of my efforts to distribute kids content, and she agreed to jump on the phone with me. This was maybe a year and a half ago, and started off very much kind of like, who is this guy? Why am I talking to him? I think by the end she realized that I knew my onions and I knew what I was talking about, and I was a good guy, and I introduced her to a couple of colleagues of mine that they ended up signing deals with Kidoodle for their content. So we then became friends, and we met in real life at the trying to think where we first met. She came over to London. She's a bit of a jet setter. And then we met at another kids conference, and we've kept in touch ever since. So very good friend of mine, but really just like an upstanding member of the community. Very vocal, very passionate about what she believes in around kids content. And I'm sure that's going to come across in today's interview.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of being on a few calls with Brenda over the last couple of weeks as you introduced me to her, and I have clients with kids content, and it's a really fascinating. I love how passionate she is about the kids space and creating a safe space for kids, which I think is it's almost this typical Google situation where Google isn't paying attention to this. And, has jumped, like they launched YouTube Kids with absolutely no oversight, as typical robots that Google are, and then basically, the AI is going to take care of it. It's like, nope, that's not going to happen. And Brenda's, she's very vocal over frustration of the platform, and she's absolutely right to be frustrated about, because this is stuff we've been talking to YouTube or warning YouTube for years, and they just sit back and just pretend it's not there, or for some reason or another just cannot put any resources towards making YouTube Kids safe for kids. So here's the opportunity: Kidoodle, a platform that's safe for kids and helps content creators monetize their content. And it's an AVOD, a model, and with a pretty great deal in terms of like monetization. We're talking about, flat CPMs. We're talking about, no unmonetized views. Everything gets monetized. Everything's much more controlled. You're not going to put unboxing videos on this platform. They're just bringing in the TV, the TV thinking in terms of like putting safe content on the web in a system that benefits the parent and benefits the content creator. So to me, I love the work they're doing, and
I would also add, and I'm sure Brenda would add, benefits the child as well, the viewer.
Yes, of course.
So yeah, we'll roll the interview now, and then we'll be back on the other side to put a bow on the conversation. So here is Brenda Bisner. So please let me say hello to one of my favoritist people inside of the video industry, Anna. Just in case you haven't heard of her, she's going to introduce herself in just a second. Please, big round of applause, everyone. Big welcome to Brenda Bisner. Welcome to the Video Insiders podcast.
Well, thanks, Tom. Excited to be here. All the way from Vermont at the moment.
Vermont, not in New York where you're usually at, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But first, please do let our listeners, just in case they haven't heard of you or Kidoodle, tell us how you ended up and found your way to Kidoodle, and what exactly is Kidoodle?
Sure. Well, I've been in the kids industry for a little over 20 years, and I've done pretty much every job in the business. And when digital started to become a thing, it's what I really glommed onto, and have been navigating that space since the very start. And along the way, I started doing deals with Kidoodle a few years ago. And then the CEO and I started a conversation, I guess now it would be almost 5 years ago, about the state of the industry and what we were looking at Kidoodle to have the opportunity to do, which then segues me into Kidoodle, which by far is some of the most important work I've ever done. It is 100% my dream job. And what we're doing in the world right now is now more necessary than ever. So the best way to understand Kidoodle is that we're a channel for children under 12, and we're reaching over 195 countries. So to distill that down a little bit more, we are a safe streaming channel. We own the word safe streaming, and we take it very seriously, adhering to all of the laws in the most aggressive way possible. COPPA, GDPR, Kids Safe certified. We believe in keeping kids safe. And for us, that, really started with when we were looking at the landscape and kids going on open platforms that say in the terms and conditions that they're not for kids under 13, and monitoring the harm that they were facing while they were exploring those outlets. And so it was really imperative for us to create something that ultimately served as that safe alternative And in addition to that, an additional revenue corridor for brand owners, for them to place their content in an environment that is actually okay for children to be in.
So what does the kidoodle look like for kids and parents? What is the actual offering?
Sure. Our first point of entry, really our main point of entry, is connected TVs. So if you're sitting with a Vizio, a Samsung, an LG, Hisense, Amazon Fire, you've got a Roku, an Apple TV, you go on, it's a free download for Kidoodle. We operate for the industry here, 90% AVOD business, advertising based, with a 10% usage of SVOD subscribers. We see that usage blend is continuing to stay more advertising focused because parents are looking for a free, safe option for their kids, pretty much always.
Yeah, and
myself.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about a Kidoodle, and when I see you post on LinkedIn and even in your email signature, it's like a parent. Is it a parent first company? Something along those lines?
We're owned by a parent media company, and the whole thought process was that it would have many babies, and Kidoodle is one of those babies. And we take it really seriously, our connection to, family and kids. And the first part of our job title indicates how we are connected to a child. Because, that, again, it's the basis of the why of our company. We believe in keeping kids safe, and that is, what drives us every day.
And what kind of brands and intellectual properties are available on Kidoodle? Is it the kind of mainstream stuff? Is it classic, brand new? Is it like YouTubers on there as well? Typical,
sure,
quote unquote, like the Ryan's Toy Review type channels?
Well, I am the Chief Content Officer, so I oversee all of the content for Kidoodle, what we're putting on and what, our viewers are looking for. And we do harness a lot of great content from YouTube. So if you have existing content on YouTube and a business there, ideally you take that same content and put it into Kidoodle. Bada bing, bada boom, you have your kids now watching it in a safe place, and you have an additional revenue corridor. In addition to that, I also see content from large distribution companies and broadcasters all around the world, which rounds out our content offering today at about 20,000 episodes, maybe a little bit more, from everyone in the business, with big brands like Talking Tom or Sunny Bunnies, which is a big show on Disney, to Bakugan, to, Yu-Gi-Oh!, down to brands that were born out of YouTube, like, Bella and Beans, or you've got Aaron's Animals. We're about to launch some more from Moonbug, which is Little Baby Bum and Morphle, very good classic educational, now franchisable brands that come from there. And, right now we're about to launch the Aardman animation titles, which will be really exciting to put on. And we've got Guinness Book of World Records. We've got Kids Bop, which is an awesome brand especially now for movement and music. Things like Molong, 64 Zulane, Oddbods. Oh, it's just so fun because I get to buy cartoons for a living. I have so many great ones.
And I know so many of them for home kids. 64 Zulane was certainly a highlight of me when my first son was born many, many years ago.
Yeah. Sing the song.
So, you're one of the most outspoken people in the industry, I would say, in a positive way, both in your social media posts, and I've seen you on panels and speaking in front of audiences, and you're very, very, very strong about how we should keep kids safe online, and rightly so, as a parent myself.
Yeah.
So I feel like we need to tackle the elephant in the room, the big red and white elephant. So that's YouTube, but also other platforms that you would consider not safe. And I know you've got a great analogy about crossing the street. I'd love to just hear your thoughts generally about, and you don't have to name YouTube specifically, but other platforms and why they're maybe, or definitely probably not the places that are best places for your children's time to be spent.
Right. Well, I'm not going to call out anybody specifically, but I think it's really important as not just a brand owner, but as a parent or a caregiver for your children, to understand what your kids are asking to do online. And to say technology is a scary word, that's not the case. We're all using it. So, remove that obstacle and any judgment around really, what your kids want to do. For example, things like, first-person shooter games that allow you to talk to strangers. Have you played that yourself? Do you know what your kids are talking about, who they're talking about? Do you know if there's danger involved in that? Mm-hmm. When you're looking at different options for your kids, is this an open platform or a closed platform? Meaning, has anything been viewed before going up? Like at Kidoodle, we have a whole QA team of real humans that look at everything down to our adverts before they go live. With something that's an open platform, anybody can upload anything at any moment, which is why you see things like, terrorist videos or some of these scary, like the Momo thing that happened back last February, terrifying events for children that definitely mentally damage them in a lot of ways if they're unsupervised. So I think that's part of it. And communication around, why is this important in your house? What is it? What are the basis, what's the base of this being allowed? Is this a reward? Is this, just a distraction? We just finished a research study with a fancy Washington, D.C. agency, and we'll be releasing a white paper around co-viewing habits. Very specifically, parents know that their kids are in danger. 90% of parents quoted said that they knew their kids were in danger when they were on something like a YouTube or a YouTube Kids. And, it's hard not to say that that's not the prime example, right? And YouTube is a wonderful, wonderful place, and some great things have happened because of YouTube. So I'm not bashing it. I'm just simply stating that it is not made for children under 13. It says so in the terms and conditions. And, it's a choice and a judgment-free choice from our perspective for parents if they want their kids to be there. But as a brand owner, where you're placing your content is where kids are going to go. So that decision on, okay, is this something we feel is of value? Again, judgment-free, we're making those decisions and sending kids in certain places, which is a long way of saying that it's really important that we understand where we're at, what people are, what's available. Is this open? Is it closed? Are we talking to strangers? Which, as you brought up already, when you cross the street, you hold your kid's hand, right? And that's what we're doing at Kidoodle. And we really believe strongly in that whole safety aspect, which is why we have a very human approach, which I think is really important in a technology-driven world.
I think another side to protecting kids online was made very, very apparent last year with the big FTC ruling against YouTube collecting data on those under 13. What is Kidoodle's stance on data collection?
Well, it's creepy and it's illegal, so therefore we will never do it. We actually build, we're a tech company first and foremost, so we can always build whatever fancy toy we want. And that's a great thing to be able to do. And one thing we have built is programmatic stacks to anonymize all data. We don't know anything about the children that are on our channel. And we shouldn't, because it's illegal to collect data on kids. That's why COPPA, GDPR exist. And we take that incredibly seriously. And, to look at what happened with YouTube, well, that was dangerous for a lot of kids. And, those changes were something that were a long time coming. And, I hope that it helps keep kids safe, their changes. I think there's still some movement to happen, and we'll see how that goes, but we're just watching, I think, the beginning of it.
Yeah, I think let's stick on the topic of that court case and the ramifications of that. We saw a big change in, first of all, view counts late 2019, and then come the turn of the year, we saw features start to disappear from kids' YouTube channels, monetization being reduced somewhere on most channels between 60 and 80% is the kind of word on the street. Has Kidoodle seen a benefit in that creators have finally realized that oh wow, I've built my business all on YouTube, and YouTube have kind of got the keys to me earning revenue or not? Have you seen people kind of knocking at your door saying, please, can we have in? We need to diversify our revenue stream. Have you seen an influx of creators that want to get their quote unquote YouTube content up onto Kidoodle?
Well, to put all your eggs in one basket just doesn't sound like a smart approach to begin with. And I think as a business owner, you're always looking to diversify. And for the companies that were very strictly focused on YouTube, there was some very generous amounts of money being made, right? And that was what I'll refer to as the gold rush.
Yeah.
And again, that's, where we've seen some fantastic brands be born for kids that we never otherwise would have seen because of the traditional broadcast approach, the $1 million shows, the 3 to 5 years of co-production financing, and all of the, ramifications that go with that and all the delays that happen. So it was really challenging to get a kid's show made before. And I think for us, determining that 60 to 80% loss for people and saying, okay, well, this is something that isn't, it's going to be terrible. We really wanted to create something that we call Creator Network. So when I'm looking at some of these great YouTube brands coming on our channel, we can measure the retention that they get on Kidoodle TV and then look long-term, like, can we support this brand? Is this something that we would want to invest in from an original perspective to create more of this content to bring to kids that would specifically live in the Kidoodle TV environment? And you're not wrong about the 60 to 80% revenue loss. I think that, some people have reported more. Some people are, the bigger sort of YouTube brands out there like, yeah, we'll offset it because we have other revenue streams like consumer products. But, speaking today, at the end of March 2020, we're living in a very, very different world, and consumer products now is very much a different space as well. We have our kids at home. We're self-educating. You hear yours in the background.
Yeah.
So I think that, yes, it has been in some ways a great opportunity for people to look outside of the YouTube space, because for so long they were making, in some cases thousands, in some cases $1 million, And now they're saying, okay, well, we've seen that decrease. Where else can we look to get to kids, which I think is in a safe way, number two, and of course make some money on it as well. And no one really wants to be on the other side of the safety conversation.
Yeah.
If you don't want to keep kids safe, that's a very different problem that we're talking about. And I think from a marketing perspective, it adds a lot of value as well, because parents want to put their kids somewhere safe. They don't want to have something else to worry about,
Yeah, and you bring up a great point about us being in a very, very different world. So as I mentioned in our introduction, or I will mention in our introduction, this is actually our second attempt at recording this podcast after the technical gremlins got us the first time. And it's been quite a rapid change in the world with the coronavirus going on. And we just recorded and published another episode about the effects of coronavirus on the video industry. Check that out in your podcast feed. And I'd love to know, like you say, so kids are at home. I've heard figures of YouTube viewership being up generally 30% across the board. Netflix and YouTube have set their default streaming resolution to standard to offset the amount of usage and bandwidth that's going on. Has Kidoodle seen a big rise in viewership since the general global lockdown? And what else is, I've noticed a few posts recently about some other initiatives that you guys are doing while kids are at home.
Yeah. Well, for us right now, there's, we're looking at a crisis that is a global thing, right? It's very upsetting in a lot of ways. And I got to be honest with you, human to human, I'm very grateful, even more so for the important work that we do at Kidoodle to keep kids safe streaming. Our viewership has had a huge increase. To say it's through the roof is a total understatement. I personally have been going 24/7, literally with no time down, to continuously gather all of the great content. A lot of these big channels that are being recommended by schools are coming on board right now really building out that educational, that movement, that mindfulness kind of content. It's, there's a lot of things within this conversation. One is definitely the fact that I'm not a teacher. I was never trained to be a teacher, and I'm suddenly forced into, like a lot of people, yourself included, who are listening to this, forced into educating our children, which I'm not doing her any favors because I'm also running a channel and trying to, she tells me that I'm a babysitter for kids all around the world, which is a legit cover story, but I had to take care of them.
And you can hear my kids being forced into education downstairs as we speak. So this is just I think this and Zoom calls being interrupted is just going to be the new state of the world. So I don't think people just generally need to apologize for it anymore. I think it's just going to be
which is nice, because at first, it was like, lock them in the closet. I got an important call, but now, hey, they're walking around. I'm hungry. They're like puppies. They have to run. They have to be fed. And the education part, to say, here, go watch something educational online in their sort of recess time. They're like, no, I want to go watch something totally mind-numbing, or I want to dance to something. So that's where a lot of the focus is. And as a company, we take this really seriously because we are parents ourselves, and we launched an initiative last week that I'm really proud of us for doing. It's called Helping Hands. And there are a lot of companies doing this as well, and each one offers something different. And, we're really just there to help, and that's what we're trying to offer within this newsletter. And if you go to Kidoodle TV's Instagram page, you can sign up for it in the link there in our bio. And, we're not going to inundate you, but we're going to send some meaningful things. And we have some really great PSAs on the channel. The other day, Miss Persona from Nelvana just launched. It's a really great little, video about taking care of yourself, washing your hands. A lot of things like that are coming on, just to kind of give kids the, lay of the land, the new world order, when they're confused, obviously. So how can you communicate with your kids better about what's going on? We're trying to offer those solutions, and it will consistently evolve. And, it's helpful for me. I mean, I'm trying to navigate it as well. And, we're all just humans at the end of the day. So let's help each other, which is a refreshing thing, I have to say. Being a New Yorker and thinking back after 9/11, everybody was very helpful, and it was very much a sense of community. And I'd like to think that that's something that will be born out of this, is that, we're all very much looking to help each other.
Yeah, that's something I think that's definitely something that I've seen. Hopefully that will continue, but we'll see how crazy people go after a few more weeks of lockdown. Another thing that has been affected by the kind of global state of things is the advertising market. Mm-hmm. A lot of people who are facing financial trouble in business, the first thing to go usually is the marketing budget, unless you are Masterclass, who are just running ads on.
Do you do that?
Ads. I don't. They're targeting me for every single class.
Everything makes crazy. I keep thinking about it.
The advertising is working, obviously, but apart from Masterclass, it seems that many people have pulled or reduced their advertising spend. And so again, a trend that I'm seeing and hearing on the grapevine is that YouTube CPMs are falling through the floor as viewership goes up. How has Kidoodle's advertising stood this kind of current test, and how are creators affected by that, your creators?
From an advertising perspective, we were preparing for Advertising Week in London right when we were watching pretty much everything crumble, the world start to really shut down. And what we're shifting that into with a lot of our advertising partners is webinars, which I actually have one scheduled right after this. We are serving the advertisers in a different way. We've worked very hard at building out our ad sales division and approach and our offering. And we personally, knock on wood, have not seen a decrease in that, because of our technology and our programmatic stack building and how, going direct to DSPs, SSPs, we can allow them to get their ads in front of viewers, which ultimately is, what they want, is people to see their ads. We haven't had a lot of trouble in that particular section. So I feel very lucky. We're not seeing that, at least not today. Now with YouTube, I think there's a lot of other factors at play as to why CPMs are falling, especially around kids content, which, just to add on is a very, what determines kids content still needs to be figured out. But I could see how that's the case with YouTube specifically, but for us, we're not seeing it.
Yeah, so I'd like to get your opinion on this, not as a YouTube expert, but just as a kids media expert. It's a question that I've had for a long time, and it's been heightened in the last 6 to 12 months, is that if I'm watching, or if my kids are watching something on, let's say, for example, Nick Jr., then they are going to get, filled up ads slots in between shows and in the middle of shows for other TV shows, other TV channels, Playmobil, Lego, theme parks, toys, clothes, aimed perfectly at children. 100% of inventory obviously sold. Why does YouTube struggle to get those same advertisers on board? Because in all the years that my kids have been watching YouTube, I don't think I've ever really seen an age-appropriate ad for kids TV or kids toys or kids theme parks or kids whatever it may be. Why do you think it is that YouTube struggles to find those kind of kids advertisers proper?
Well, as far as how YouTube is struggling with finding kids appropriate ads, I can't really answer that, and I don't honestly really want to, but I will say it is machine driven, and I know that they do offer that you can click certain kinds of ads, but things fall through the cracks because it's all machine driven. And I think that the user experience within the click through, kids can navigate around that. For us, and just like a Nick Jr. or a traditional broadcaster in that sense, when we're looking at ads, it needs to, fit into the experience for the child. And they are very much decision makers in the home in a lot of ways. So, a cute kid in a car commercial isn't necessarily out of the question. But definitely selling toys is the number one priority. And I really wish that YouTube had figured that out and adhered to COPPA and GDPR and all of that. Safe, not creepy collecting on kids. So that's about as much as I'll give you.
Cool. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So if I'm a jaded YouTube creator,
Sure.
and I've spent a lot of time and effort building up a brand and an audience on YouTube, and all of a sudden overnight they decide to put the kibosh on my channel, take away my features, my audience, blah, 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 blah. A few of these creators I've pointed in your direction. What's the process of how they get their stuff to be on Kidoodle, and what is it that you're looking for and what is it that you're not looking for from kind of what you'd call like a YouTube creator as opposed to like a distribution company or a broadcaster that's got a bunch of cartoons and stuff?
Well, I talk to a lot of really jaded YouTube creators. I talk to people who are furious about the arbitrary algorithm changes that they face, that are furious because they have seen 80% of a lack in revenue. I can definitely be a therapist to some extent, and then talk more about what they can do for us. One thing that we have is our safe streaming guidelines. So, adhering to safety, we don't have anything, I'll kill you, you're stupid, you're fat, you're ugly, no guns. There's nothing, no first-person shooters, no YouTube call-outs, no subscribe here language, no watermarks. If you're thinking beyond all of your eggs in the YouTube basket, to eliminate things that totally brand you to YouTube are really important for creators to consider integrating. I see this a lot with gamers, these people who are playing Minecraft, Roblox, Think Noodles, a few other big games. They're very much about subscribe to my channel, so it's all about that. If you eliminate that from your videos, you've now just opened up yourself to a lot of other opportunity for distribution. We have a lot of those kids. I'm serving kids under 12 in 195 countries, so we consistently are looking to fill a lot of holes, and breaking down by the preschool bucket, which is always a very congested space. There's a ton of great preschool content out there, and we have a large chunk of it, 5 to 8, I always call the gray area kid, because sometimes it feels like they're forgotten, because, once, you're out of preschool, where are you really going to go? There's always like a need for that demographic, specifically in comedy and gaming, and, real life, other kids doing fun things. We will never have unboxing videos. We will not have parents pimping out their children for financial gain. We very much care about child labor laws and, the quality and how things are being done. And then, of course, 9 to 12, which is a whole different animal, right? It's you're getting into a different zone. You're preparing yourself to go to YouTube. So we have some more older geared content there. We also have a very serious discoverability protocol for our channel, so that every brand can get, proper, relevant search and be viewed. So we break it down by themes as well. Holiday things do really good for us. Comedy, like I said, imagination, movement, mindfulness, big category right now that's growing globally, even more so. So we're always looking. Ninjas. I'm really trying to build out my ninja themed category, my fart jokes, all the good stuff. But the best part is that because I have such a large audience to serve in terms of the content offering that I'm looking at, for Kidoodle, we're very open to a lot of different kinds of things. And we look at every detail of it very holistically, like how will this resonate? And we could tell pretty quickly after a few, months, maybe even the first year, if it's going to, have the retention that means something. And that's just, those are always very important tools to have.
I'd like to go back to a point that you raised a second ago, and for me, it's the biggest problem as a parent. I'm not one of these people that's super against breaks in privacy or, CCTV or collecting data. Yeah, it's bad, but I think there are bigger problems in the world. And to me, the biggest problem that YouTube should have clamped down on a lot earlier, and other platforms, is what you said about child labor laws. Because I see my kids watching some stuff and I'm like, these poor kids, like, and I'm not going to name any names, but, you can imagine if you've got kids and you've seen this stuff, where is their childhood going to go? You see what happens to child stars and all this kind of stuff. So how does Kidoodle deal with that? If you find a property that you think, this is awesome, this is educational, it's going to bring value to our viewers, and it's little Johnny, teaching people about animals or whatever it may be, how do you then certify or ratify that Johnny's not working 12 hours a day and that Johnny's still going to school? I know it's not your job, but if you want to take that title, obviously it's a consideration that you have to make. How does Kidoodle broach that subject?
Well, I will start by saying it's very hard to own a person, right? It's better to own a brand, and you kind of have watched the networks have their child stars that go pretty much AWOL at some point because of extreme fame and wealth. And it's just a matter of time before something like that happens to some of these kids that do prove to become very big. As far as vetting, we don't have a lot of that kind of content. Things like Ryan's toy review, reviewing toys, that's something that we don't put on the channel. If Ryan had, say, science content, that would be something different. But that comes from a company that represents him that does take child labor laws very seriously and does take percentage of revenue and put into the trust account that is legally mandated and does give education to parents, just like a Disney or a Nick or any broadcaster would when you have a child star. But when you look at the lack of regulation for parents within that environment, almost like when you go on a broadcast, you're forcing them to do that, then you have situations where, now you're the cash cow, right? And they're dependent on you. And then one day, we're going to start seeing a lot of emancipations happen. Look at Macaulay Culkin's situation. And that's very scary to me. And then if you are the family that just lost 80% of your revenue because of the changes with YouTube, well, now do you still have to sell your house because you can't make that much money anymore? now what happens? Now you got to go get a real job again. So it's looking at many different factors. It's been a very sensitive issue for us from the very beginning, the unboxing videos and these parents putting their children, to work like this. So, it's always a very specific, what is the show? What's the point of the show? What's the value? Is there some sort of educational tie-in? What are these parents doing to give back? Where is this going? We look at a lot of different factors and we take the decision really seriously. And of course, we want to take care of kids. We believe in keeping them safe. So it's always a very black and white. It's either yes or it's a total no, right? And if there's any question, then it's a no. And we're there for, our brand owners. One thing I always say is welcome to the Kidoodle family. And we mean it because we are very much like a family company and we want our brand owners and creators to feel like they're part of something that's important because they are.
Yeah, I think that's really commendable. And as I say, this is an issue that I've kind of got up on my soapbox a number of times about, and probably much more so than the kind of data side or whatever it may be. Well, I don't want to keep you for too much longer because I know you've got 24/7 content acquisitions to get on with, and I'm hoping to have my own titles up on Kidoodle pretty soon. More about that in the future. But what is the future for Kidoodle? Like new features to the platform, new partners? Sure. What can we expect if we're keeping an eye on Kidoodle?
Absolutely. Well, I try to, acquire as many great shows as possible. You'll see some very large announcements of coming out here very soon with some very big brands. We're continuing to expand our platform launches on a global scale. Our user experience will always evolve. So checking the channel on a regular basis is really important. We're continuously expanding in our advertising partnership sector as well. And quite frankly, right now, we're really building out that social media connection to our actual users, to our families, so that we can be there. Brands that are listening right now, if you have content, feel free to email at content@kidoodle.tv. Happy to take a look. We do have quite a large submission backlog, but we do get to everybody at some point, hopefully sooner than later. I really try very hard on that. And, at the end of the day, we're continuously just adding more content and building out, making it a greater experience for kids. And it's really important that, if you have a story to share of something that happened for you and your family or, that let us know. We're here to listen. We're here to take that information and consider it as we continue to evolve our safe streaming channel for kids all around the world.
And if people want to hear more from you specifically and what you've got to say on the industry, I know that you're very vocal on LinkedIn. Love reading your posts and updates. Is LinkedIn the best place to hear more from you? Are you on any other social platforms that you want to put out into the world?
Well, I'm very much vocal on LinkedIn in a lot of ways, and we'll be sharing, relevant information and the interviews that are going on, any helpful tips, certainly from a business perspective. I definitely take, my private life very seriously, but you can try to find me on Instagram as well. And it's also something that's another conversation about digital permanence, but I keep everything pretty private in terms of, my child and what goes out there as well. And I think it's another conversation that's worthy of having. So put that in your back pocket.
Well, I know for sure we're going to get you back on sometime in the future. But for now, Brenda, it's been an absolute pleasure. And guys, please go check out Kidoodle and make sure you know exactly what your kids are watching. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Tom. Bye.
Well, Brenda is definitely a character. She's got definitely opinions, and I think it is great. I love the fact that she's so passionate about this space, totally understands what's going on the platforms, and is taking advantage of, in a way, Google, YouTube's myopic view of this ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think a bit like me, she is a mum first, a parent first, just like I'm a dad first, and she really, has very strong opinions of how, I was very much up on my soapbox again in that episode as I have been on previous episodes, and that's not to say that YouTube and other platforms don't care about kids, but they're not necessarily making that their number one focus and priority as Brenda and Kidoodle are.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're right. There's obviously people, I tend to be like, no, they don't care. But, obviously there's people that care in there internally, but there's obviously, a lack of just putting the resources behind it. So as I said before the interview, it opens up opportunities for other players to just scoop up that audience and scoop up that content. And I'm all for it. We need to create competition. It just, the AVOD ecosystem, the self-serve, and it's not really self-serve. It's more a little bit of a brand, as somebody who's onboarding content with them as we speak, it's less hands-on-y than YouTube. It's more like you deliver the content, they take care of everything, which is, more traditional way of dealing with distribution. It's got its pluses, it's got its minuses, but at the same time, it's another platform that helps diversify creators' income, and that's the smart thing to do.
Yeah, and I think they're really growing. I think they're just going to continue to grow. But at the same time, I don't ever think they're going to lose what makes them kind of different. And, that's, YouTube's biggest blessing is also probably its biggest curse in that it's a pure scale model. And when you hit a certain scale, there's no way that you can sit and manually review every single video before it goes live on a platform. But that is something that Kidoodle are still in a position to do. And I believe they will continue to do that. And so, that is, it's quality over quantity, isn't it, really? So, and I think that is a trade-off that they're more than happy to make, and, insist that they will continue to make that. So thank you, Brenda. It was absolutely fascinating to talk to you. I could talk to you for hours, as you know I usually do, chewing your ear off about the industry. So great to hear from you. And before we go, if you enjoyed this, please share it with someone else in the industry that you think should hear it, whether they're a independent creator with kids content or a distributor that are not currently distributing on Kidoodle. Also, while you're there, give us a rating and review in Apple Podcast or the podcast app of your choice.
Our you for listening. Thank you, Brenda, for coming on the show. And before we go, a big thank you to TubeBuddy for being our founding sponsor. TubeBuddy is the ultimate tool for creators. Obviously, we're big fans of the platform, of the app, of the Chrome extension, and recommend it to all our clients as it helps us with our daily work, optimizing YouTube channels and making sure that videos get the maximum views they can, maximum organic views. We have a special offer. Tom, you want to tell people about it?
Yes, you can get an exclusive multi-channel license discount by visiting videoinsiders.fm/TubeBuddy. Thank you, TubeBuddy.
Thank you, TubeBuddy, and to everybody. Stay safe out there.
Stay at home. Bye.
Bye.